I'm Alexandra, and I am making a video diary of my trip to Ukraine to visit my roots. I've never met my grandparents before, or other family members, but I can't wait to meet them. Well, boarding time. See you in Kiev!
Hello. Welcome to Ukrainian Oaks. How can I help you?
I'm looking for my grandpa, Oleski.
Yes, he's right over here. Aleski, your grandson is here.
Привет, Grandpa.
Alexander, it is so nice to finally meet you.
You too, Grandpa.
How was your flight?
It was good. I was thinking of a lot of questions to ask you for my school project.
Oh, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Are you hungry or thirsty?
Yeah, I'm a little thirsty.
Anastasia?
Yes, Aleski.
Can I please have some water?
Of course.
And we'd also like two borscht, please.
To Borscht.
Thank you, Anastasia.
What is borscht?
It is our most traditional meal here in the Ukraine. It is made with beets and cabbages.
Oh, okay. Thank you. What are some other traditional Ukrainian meals?
The food here is well known for its great diversity and amazing flavors. We are influenced by Russia, Polish, German, and Turkish cuisine. We like to make unusual combinations of meat, mushrooms, vegetables, berries, fruit, and herbs. People across the world often say that Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe because of all our flavorful and delicious bread.
This is really good. Were you always able to have this at meals at home? Did your parents make this for you a lot?
No, sadly. Us Ukrainians have a long and sometimes sad history, which sometimes prevented us from having all the food we desire. Unfortunately, I never had the experience of a feeling traditional meal like my grandparents and parents experienced as children. When I was born in 1920, Ukraine was in the middle of a war of independence from the Soviet Union. After the First World War, the Soviets had divided and controlled most of our country, but we won our independence and became the Ukrainian Soviet Social Republic. After we won our independence, the Soviet Union reconquered us, though. Our economy was in tatters and we were starving. Then, in the 1930s, when I was about 12 years old, the Holodomor, also known as the Great Famine, hit, killing 7 to 10 million people. Meals were rare. It was estimated 25,000 people died per day. It seemed like all the families around us were perishing from this adversity. Many friends and family members died, including my 5-year-old sister. Joseph Stalin, the dictator of this era, was very oppressive. For example, I remember walking down the street and overhearing a fellow resident talking about the famine, and he was arrested.
I didn't know Stalin was that bad. Was he more tyrannical than Hitler?
When I was a young adult in my early 20s, I remember the day the Nazis invaded. The people were in high hopes that Hitler would save us from the Soviets and Ukraine would gain independence. Some of my buddies even sided with the Nazis, soon learning they would be enslaved and used for labor.
I'm gonna go look for my water, okay, Grandpa?
Yes. Oh, hello, Svetlana.
Hello.
Hello, Alexandra.
Hello.
This is my friend Svetlana.
Hi, nice to meet you. I love your scarf. Where did you get it?
Why, thank you. I got this scarf when I was a little girl. My mother made it for me.
Very nice. What else did you wear? What was the fashion back then?
Well, the traditional Ukrainian clothing was Baroque style. The sleeves were embroidered and beaded. Standard women's wear was a long shirt belted at the waist. The wreaths on clothes were a national symbol that represented purity and youth. But when I would dance, I would wear other clothes.
What were the popular dances back then?
We would often dance to upbeat folk-style rhythm while wearing elaborate embroidered costumes. Kozakok is a Kozak dance, a fast linear dance done 2/4 time. The woman leads and the man follows, imitating her fingers. Povzunit, or crawler, is another traditional Cossack dance. Performed solely by men, the performer squats, sits, or kneels throughout the duration of the dance, beginning to end.
So Grandpa, in class we've been studying about renewable energy and stuff, and my teacher said to ask you about Ukrainians' nuclear energy and how they utilize it.
Well, yes, nuclear energy is a very important and large part of Ukrainian life, but I personally do not know so much about nuclear energy, but my friend Igor here actually used to work at a nuclear power plant. Igor! This is my granddaughter.
Hi, I'm Alexandra, and I was gonna ask you a few questions about the nuclear energy here in Ukraine. Is that okay?
Yes, I'd be happy to help.
My grandma tells me you were working for Chernobyl when it exploded. Is that true?
On the 26th of April in 1986, the nuclear power plant of Chernobyl had a terrible accident that resulted in an explosion and a fire, but worst of all, the spread of horrible radioactive material all over our nation.
I've heard a lot about Ukraine's reliance on nuclear energy. Do you know anything about that?
The nuclear energy program started here in the 1970s with the construction of 4 nuclear energy power plants, which provided us half of all the energy we used. Most of us supported the use of nuclear energy until Chernobyl.
What was the Chernobyl disaster?
Chernobyl's disaster was a catastrophic nuclear accident that happened in 1986. To my understanding, it was caused by a flawed Soviet design and many mistakes by the operators. It resulted in a fire which released huge amounts of radioactive particles into the atmosphere.
Well, how did it affect Ukrainian life after?
Well, its effects were far-reaching and are still being experienced today. Ukraine produced large amounts of agriculture for the entire Soviet Union. The spread of radioactive decay soaked into the soil, poisoning many of the crops, as well as polluting our water sources. It affected the entire population of Ukraine. The land near the Chernobyl plant was turned into a wasteland, void of nature and animals, because no plants or animals could survive nearby, and the people experienced heightened cancer rates around the Chernobyl site. Scientists are not sure of what other effects there will be.
Grandpa, if your life was so bad growing up, is it still the same way? Do the Soviets still live in Ukraine?
Oh, Luba will explain.
Oh, Luba remembers the days of the independence. Luba remembers. Glorious day, the referendum on the act of Declaration of Independence on August 24th, 1991. I was 36 years old and I took part in voting for the independence. 92% of voters voted yes for the independence of Ukraine. The people of Ukraine had been repressed by the Soviet Union and were done being part of the Soviet Union and done being communists. I remember the people of the city in Lviv, that's where I am from, digging up the statues of the communist heroes and organizing our own Ukrainian military defense to protect ourselves from the Soviet Union. 200,000 Lviv residents, including my younger brother Fadir, signed up to be National Guards. When the act was passed and Ukraine was declared independent, I danced in the streets with my late husband and children. People were crying and running through the city screaming, "Zadanam Najal Shnotsti! Happy Independence Day! Happy Independence Day!" Everyone was so thrilled and relieved that we were free at last and could carry on in history as an independent nation.
Wow, what an amazing experience. Were there any other revolutions in Ukraine that are prominent?
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Let's. Can I help you?
No, I'm fine, thank you. Would you mind speaking to my granddaughter about your experiences in Ukraine?
Of course.
I heard about this one revolution about 10 years ago. Were you part of that one?
Ah, yes, the Orange Revolution. I was a young girl, and I was excited to be a part of the voting experience. Like my brothers and sisters, we were raised with traditional Ukrainian values. We did not believe in Soviets or any of their traditional costumes.
So did you not like the Soviets at all?
It wasn't in my upbringing to trust the Soviets, let alone let them govern my country.
So I'm guessing the traditional Ukrainians didn't vote for the pro-Russian minister Viktor Yankovich.
That's correct.
Then how did they get him out of power?
The majority of the country wanted nothing to do with him. And somehow that man rigged the election. The people of Ukraine, like myself, were extremely upset to see a fraud in the office. He used fear to win. He used his secret police to intimidate his voters. We marched and we marched and we made our voices be heard. We walked in solidarity to the Ukrainian Supreme Court and demanded a re-election to be held. December 26, 2004, the court ordered a revote.
Did you try to rig the election again? How did the people get their justice?
The election was held and Yushchenko had 52% of the vote. It was clear that he was the best leader, and he asked the people to celebrate peacefully. The revolution was life-changing to participate in. I stood up for my country and for justice.
Hey Grandpa, I gotta go.
Thank you so much for coming to visit me in Ukraine. It was so lovely to see you again.
Thank you.
Have a good day. I will see you later, yes?
Пока.
Baka.
Пока. Hi. Are you from around here?
Yes.
I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions about modern Ukraine.
Sure.
The modern Ukrainian Revolution primarily took place in February 2014. It occurred following a series of violent events involving protesters, riot police, and unknown shooters in the capital Kiev that resulted in the ousting of the then President of Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych. It all began when the government of Ukraine was planning to ally themselves with NATO. The President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, was violently opposed to this, fearing that he would lose the connection Russian gas to Ukraine through the farmlands and other resources. At that point, Russia slowly began to infiltrate Crimea, saying that the people were wanted Russian control. Whether that fact is true is murky. The Russians moved in and took Crimea, one of the most valuable geographic locations in the Ukraine. While there was a small population of Ukrainians who were pro-Russian supporters, a vast amount of the population lived in fear from Russian invasion again.
Wow, what effects has that had on Ukraine and Russia?
Well, mainly it was vastly affected in the relationship between the West and Russia. After Crimea's annexation, travel sanctions, bans on borrowing by leading Russian banks and companies, as well as restrictions on the exports of military and goods and oil, have been imposed on Russia and affected the Ukraine. In our nation, the cost of war-related damage is currently estimated at 6 billion euros. And industrial production has nearly come to a standstill. We have also experienced a great amount of domestic inflation. Life in Ukraine is not easy right now.
You look so good.
What's going on?
Okay.
Are you kidding me?
Oh!
Oh, yeah, it's back. Hello. Alright.
Right over.
Should I go on this side or good? How much like a